Welcome to Dissonant Voices, a Mythos Busters production. Check the video description for entry timestamps, and hit pause when you hear the extra special campaign-specific sound effect. Thanks to all of our fans who make our content possible. The characters, setting, narrative, and all other elements of Arkham Horror the card game presented here are copyrighted and trademarked by Fantasy Flight Games. This is a fan-made reading created solely for non-commercial use, and it is not intended to infringe on any of Fantasy Flight Games' intellectual property in any way. On this episode, The Dream Eaters. Prologue. Friday, February 13th, 1925. Something odd was happening in Arkham, Massachusetts. Typically, this would not be a surprise to the residents of the dreary New England town. Indeed, Arkham has always been well known for its strange, some would say supernatural occurrences. The nature of this particular circumstance, however, was anything but typical. It all began in the latest issue of Tales from Nevermore. A writer by the name of Virgil Gray described a journey he had taken in his dreams, a journey he claimed was not a work of fiction on his part. He wrote of a long, spiraling staircase, an unbearably hot pillar of sentient fire, a tree that came from the moon, and a curious talking cat, among other things equally difficult to believe. But it wasn't this extraordinary tale that first drew your attention. Soon after Virgil's tale was published, Tales from Nevermore began to receive and publish letter after letter from those who had read Virgil's story and claimed to have experienced the same exact dream. Before long, the Arkham Advertiser picked up the story, and news of this strange phenomenon reached the ears of experts. Virgil Gray was convinced to undergo therapy at the local asylum, and many more who shared in the writer's psychosis were committed as well. The prevailing theory among academics is that Virgil's dream felt so real that he could not separate fact from fiction, and his writings spread his delusions to others like a form of shared hysteria. You remain unconvinced. After all, there is much that is not known about the simple act of dreaming. Medical experts have wildly differing theories on the state of one's brain during sleep. Recently, experts like Sigmund Freud have proposed that dreams are manifestations of one's subconscious desires, fears, or obsessions. Fortune-tellers, for their part, have long believed that dreams can be sifted and interpreted in order to tell the dreamer's past or future. But if these theories are true, how could multiple parties, all from very different walks of life, have had the same shared experience in their dreams? What if our modern understanding of sleep is all wrong? What if there really is a place our consciousness travels to when we sleep? A land of dreams that exists beyond our waking world. You and your companions have gathered together to get to the bottom of this strange phenomenon. If others in town can travel to another world in their dreams, perhaps you can too. You've recreated the circumstances of Virgil's journey perfectly. If all goes well, half of you will take the trip to this Dreamland and back. The rest will stay in the waking world, studying your companion's sleep patterns to ensure nothing goes wrong. The Dream Quest, Scenario 1A, Beyond the Gates of Sleep. Guardian Dream. You circle a sullen hill shrouded in darkness and steeped in fog that seems to swallow all sound. You don't know what rests within the hill, but it feels older than this world, and it seems like it is watching you. You dare not turn to face the barrow, yet you know you cannot leave it, so instead you endlessly patrol it. In the surrounding hedgerows you catch glimpses of twisted shadows darting to and fro, but whenever you turn your torch upon them, they vanish. You begin to run but are frozen by a loud knock from behind you. When you turn, the fog parts until you finally see the base of the hill, where a heavy door of weathered slate calls to you. Seeker Dream. You hurry through the halls of a university you barely recognize, cradling several textbooks in your arm as you scurry past other students and faculty members. You don't know how it is possible you forgot the date of your exam, but if you don't arrive soon, you know you will fail the class. Somehow, you don't even remember the course's subject matter or its curriculum, even though you know it is the end of the semester. It is not like you to skip class or to forget to study. You can hear the other students snickering to themselves as you pass. When you reach the end of the hall, the classroom door looms ominously before you. Rogue Dream. You conceal a grin as you examine your cards. Jack of diamonds, Queen of spades for the nut straight. Your stack of chips is growing larger with each hand, and this will be no different. Bets fly back and forth until it is just you and the man in the white suit across from you. Are you sure about this? He taunts, cradling his fingers. You push all of your chips into the center and reveal your king high straight. What a shame, he tisks, revealing a pair of twos. It appears you have lost everything. You protest, pointing to your superior hand, but when you examine it again, it has changed. The figures on the face cards are now monstrous shapes with no eyes, many mouths, and tentacled arms. Knight of Hearts, Ten of Clubs, D of Diamonds, C of Spades, N of Tentacle, the card reads. You gape in shock as you are carried away from the table and ushered out the door. Mystic Dream. You traverse an enchanted path full of color and vibrancy. Wisps of light hang in the air, bobbing up and down as you approach. With each step you take, the flora along the path atrophy, following no laws of nature. Flowers once bloomed in your wake, now they shrivel as you pass. Vines wither and die. The wisps mock you for your ignorance, yet you do not slow your pace. As you look upon the fair trees, their leaves begin to fall. The once green grass is dry, brown, and cracked. But even should the whole forest die, it will be worth reaching the other side. When you do, the trail ends abruptly at an ornate wooden door carved into the trunk of a great redwood. Survivor Dream. You are fleeing through a dark, cramped hall of vine-covered wood. Something inexplicable chases you through the murk. You're too terrified to turn and look upon your pursuer, but nonetheless you know that if it catches you, it will mean the end of your life. It will pierce your heart, drain your blood, and devour your insides. It is this thought that drives you onward, faster than you have ever run before. You cannot let it reach you. You cannot let it feed. Suddenly you spot your way out, a sturdy wooden door surrounded by a wall of vines. Criminal Dream. The blare of sirens echoes through the streets behind you. They're gaining on you. They've always been hot on your heels, and you are always one step ahead, until now. You run down an alleyway, and a bright red glare follows you. They're going to catch you. They'll lock you in a cage and throw away the key. Your freedom, your lifestyle, everything you are, everything you love, they'll take it all away. And why? Just because you wouldn't play by their rules? When have they ever gotten everything right? You round a corner just as the bulls are about to catch up with you and spot the entrance into a brick building. Drifter Dream. You meander through a field of flowers, a warm spring breeze nudging your steps forward. A train track divides the field, and as you meet its parallel lines, the roaring clatter of steam and iron lumbers toward you. As the train passes by, you grab onto a ladder hanging from one of its many rusted and weather-beaten cars. Given the appearance of the exterior, the train's interior is full of unexpected luxury and affluence. Persian rugs hang as decoration, marble staircases wind to dizzying heights, and a crystal chandelier speckles the room with prismatic brilliance. Under the chandelier sits an ornate doorway, its gilded lattices forming the depiction of a fox in a forest. Hunter Dream. You stalk your prey through a decrepit house, its halls smelling of mold and dust. The creature you hunt is an abomination from an unnatural world. It threatens humanity's very existence with its presence. You catch its uncanny shape entering one of the doorways upstairs. It cannot escape now. It is yours. But when you enter its den, you find only a dirty, cracked mirror and your own tired and troubled face reflected in the glass. Where could the aberration have gone? You're sure this is where it retreated to, and yet you turn back to the entrance and are surprised to see a door where there was none before. Medic or Assistant Dream. You stand in front of a closed casket. Mourners in black clothing stand in a line at your side, waiting for you to say your last words. Tearfully, you place a hand on the casket. The hard, cold wood feels dead under your palm. They confided in you. They relied on you. And in their time of utmost need, you failed them. All of this, the cold casket, the mourning friends and family, it is all because of you. But when you open the casket, there's no body inside, only a long stone passageway leading deep underground. Suddenly, one of the mourners pushes you forward, and you fall over the edge of the casket and down into the pit below, landing painfully on your side. As you rise to your feet, you find your only exit, a stone archway leading somewhere else entirely. Miskatonic or Scholar Dream. You are in an old, forgotten library, surrounded by the knowledge of the ancients. Hundreds of thousands of tomes line the shelves around you, ascending into an empty void above. The dim halls smell of musty pages and melting wax. Taking one of the thick tomes from a nearby shelf, you begin to read. Although you cannot seem to read any of the words, you are utterly absorbed by the tale the pages weave. Your surroundings fade into triviality as time passes. Nothing matters but the shapes of the crimson ink. All else is meaningless in the face of such stark truths. All around you, the library burns to its foundations. Just as the flames reach you, a door out of the library calls to you. Somehow, it stands unburned among the flames. Veteran Dream. You're in a muddy, soot-filled trench. All around you, the thunderous din of war rages on, never-ending. Dead litter the trenches, friends and comrades in arms who have lost their lives over nothing in a land far from home. You peer over the rim of the trench and into no man's land, a barren waste of broken, charred countryside where death is certain. And there, you see it. A lone wooden door standing among the rubble and dirt. You know it is your only way out. Gripping your rifle tight, you go over the top and run headlong into a hail of deadly bullets, explosions rocking the ground around you. Wayfarer Dream. You trudge chest-deep through a brackish swamp. Impossibly large bulrushes tower over you, and clouds of strange, iridescent insects swarm through the fetid air. With each step, your feet sink deeper into the soft muck, threatening to pull you under. You feel something slick and cold glide across your leg, and you lunge toward dry land. But the more you struggle, the farther you sink. In the blink of an eye, you are consumed whole by the mire, yet you are still falling ever downward. Eventually, you are deposited onto a stone floor along with a small mudslide. You find yourself in a sealed chamber, lit by the pale blue glimmering of strange hieroglyphs. The symbols frame an intricate golden door, the door to the crypt you've been searching for. Neutral Dream 1. You toss and turn but do not sleep, not even for a moment. Your mind is filled with discomfort and dark thoughts, thoughts of failure, of ineptitude, of loss. Your brow is covered in sweat. No matter how you lie, your bed is either too hot or too cold. Finally, sick of getting nowhere, you rise and head to the sink to splash some water on your face. That is when you realize the layout of your room is not as it was before, and the door to your bathroom has been replaced by a large gateway of onyx and marble. Neutral Dream 2. You sit on the back patio of what seems like your childhood home, but something is off. You don't recognize your family. The plants in the backyard are arranged differently, and the sky is a patchwork of rotting corpses raining dismembered body parts onto the landscape. Your not family watches this precipitation of corpses calmly, discussing the weather as if it were a banal occurrence. This continues even as the intermittent thudding of hands and feet onto your roof intensifies into a torrent of maimed torsos that causes the ceiling to sag. You run outside, weaving through the deadly rain, and head instinctively toward the edge of your parents' property. As you hear the crash of the house collapsing behind you, you push away the fallen limbs piling atop an old, familiar spot and are relieved to find the weathered wood of a cellar door. Beyond the Gates of Sleep resolutions. If no resolution was reached because each investigator was defeated, you are nudged into consciousness by an old scarred cat. Hey, you alright, human? I'm dreaming, you remember, and suddenly the talking cat doesn't seem quite as weird. Exhausted, you manage to rise to your feet, brushing off the dirt caked on your clothing. You're lucky you weren't harmed before we arrived, a human voice calls out to you. It belongs to a blonde-haired man in a brown traveling coat who leans against a nearby tree. These woods are not forgiving to the faint of heart. The scarred cat walks to the man's side, and the man leans over to pet its back. You ask the man where you are and how he came to this place, but he cuts you off. I will explain in due time. For now, we must follow the path to the town of Ulthar. It is a safe place, relatively speaking. There you may recover from your ordeals. He turns to the cat and utters a word in an odd language, a password of sorts, you suspect. But the cat simply wanders off toward a hedge where you see several other cats banded together. Do it yourself, it replies. Don't mind the cats, the man says to you quietly as the cats depart. They're useful allies, but also independent creatures with no need for you or me. When we reach Ulthar, you may get the chance to meet others of their kind. But first things first. Together, you leave the eaves of the Enchanted Forest behind. In your campaign log, record, the investigators were saved by Randolph Carter. Any one investigator may choose to add Randolph Carter, Expert Dreamer, to their deck. This card does not count toward that investigator's deck size. Each investigator earns experience equal to the Victory X value of each card in the victory display. If you're playing the Dream Quest as a 4-part campaign, proceed to Interlude 1, the Black Cat. If you're playing the Dream Quest and the Web of Dreams as an interconnected 8-part campaign, and you have not yet completed Scenario 1B, Waking Nightmare, proceed to that scenario. If you have already played Scenario 1B, Waking Nightmare, proceed instead to Interlude 1, the Black Cat. Resolution 1. The creatures chitter amongst themselves, and after a moment a dozen of them retreat in the direction of the great tree beyond the beaten path. They return shortly afterward carrying a variety of grouse, quail, and pheasants in their mouths. You're almost certain now that you're going crazy, and yet the spectacle continues. The creatures timidly drop their tribute of birds in front of the cats and quietly depart. "My apologies on behalf of the Zoogs," the man says as he approaches. They are curious creatures, and not usually so agitated. "It's good that we showed up when we did." The leader of the cats jumps on a tree stump and adds, Yes, them vile Zoogs have done their part, now let's do ours and leave this forsaken place. What say ye?" You cannot contain your excitement. Zoogs, talking cats, everything you've read about is real. You begin to ask the man more about this world, but he cuts you off. "I'll explain in due time. For now we must follow the path to the town of Ulthar. It's a safe place, relatively speaking. There you may recover from your travels." He turns to the old, scarred cat and utters a word in an odd language. A password of sorts, you suspect. And the cat replies with a quick nod. The rest of the cats, tribute in mouth, take a protective, circular formation around you, and together you escape from the eaves of the Enchanted Forest. In your campaign log, record that the cats collected their tribute from the Zoogs. Any one investigator may choose to add Randolph Carter, Expert Dreamer, to their deck. This card does not count toward that investigator's deck size. Each investigator earns experience equal to the Victory X value of each card in the victory display. If you are playing the Dream Quest as a 4-part campaign, proceed to Interlude 1, the Black Cat. If you're playing the Dream Quest and Web of Dreams as an interconnected 8-part campaign, and you have not yet completed Scenario 1B, Waking Nightmare, proceed to that scenario. If you've already completed Scenario 1B, Waking Nightmare, proceed instead to Interlude 1, the Black Cat. Resolution 2. You hold a hand up to the new visitors, believing that you can defuse this situation on your own. Had you known these rodent-like creatures were intelligent all along, you might have tried to communicate with them much earlier. You inform them that you are just travelers in this faraway land and that you simply wish to pass through peacefully. The creatures chitter amongst themselves for a moment. "They are kind. They are not with the Black Cat after all. Summon the Council of Sages." After a short while, several more of them appear, each with withering gray fur and a frail, thin body. The eldest one peeks behind you and states that they will aid you if you get the cats to leave. Somehow, you contain your disbelief and politely ask the cats to come back another time. "All right," the scarred cat replies, "but you ain't seen the last of us." The cats retreat to the edge of the woods, though their human companion stays behind with you. Once the cats are out of earshot, one of the elders offers up a gourd of what appears to be fermented tree sap, which you accept graciously. "It is the wine of the moon tree," the man behind you explains quietly, stepping forward. "The Zoogs do not give such gifts lightly. They are curious creatures, but not without wisdom. Now that you may speak freely with their elders, try asking them a question. They know more of the dealings of this land than you might think." You describe the author Virgil Gray and ask the Zoogs if they have seen a man fitting that description pass through these woods. You add that he would have walked this path many times. A hush falls over the Zoogs, and some of them immediately depart into the deep foliage. "We've met this human," one of the elders replies with a flutter just louder than a whisper. "He often comes this way. He is kind but foolish. Take the road to Ulthar, you may meet him." Then it adds with a low growl, "But beware of the cat that follows him. All cats are liars, but the Black Cat especially." You thank the ancient Zoog for its wisdom and depart, led by the blond man and his feline escort. The cats eye you suspiciously after your discussion with the Zoogs. The man breaks the tension. If you are heading to Ulthar to find this friend of yours, allow me to guide you there. It is a safe place, relatively speaking. There you may recover from your travels. Zoogs? Talking cats? This can't all be a figment of your imagination. Somehow you can see a layer of truth beneath all this absurdity. For better or for worse, the Zoog Council has confirmed the reality of your situation. The Dreamlands are real, and Virgil Grey is here. In your campaign log, record the investigators parlayed with the Zoogs. Any one investigator may choose to add Randolph Carter, Expert Dreamer, to their deck. This card does not count toward that investigator's deck size. Each investigator earns experience equal to the Victory X value of each card in the Victory display. If you're playing the Dream Quest as a 4-part campaign, proceed to Interlude 1, the Black Cat. If you're playing the Dream Quest and Web of Dreams as an interconnected 8-part campaign and you have not yet played Scenario 1B, Waking Nightmare, proceed to that scenario. If you have already played Scenario 1B, proceed instead to Interlude 1, the Black Cat. Web of Dreams, Scenario 1B, Waking Nightmare. It has been more than 24 hours since your companions fell asleep. Over the course of the past day, your curiosity has slowly turned to concern, and then dread. The problems began when one of your friends started to toss and turn violently in their sleep. You snapped to attention and tried to shake them awake, but it was to no avail. You tried everything. Physical contact was no use, and water did nothing but soak their clothes and bed fruitlessly. Even opening their eyelids did not wake them, and in the process you noticed that their pupils had fully dilated and their eyes were glazed over with a milky white fog. You have no idea what this could mean for your friends. Have they managed to find their way to the land Virgil Grey described in his writings? Or has something more sinister taken root within their minds and bodies? Just to be safe, you decide to take your companions to St. Mary's Hospital. If something ails them physically, perhaps the doctors can discern what is wrong. Otherwise, you'll simply have to watch over them and hope they safely return to the waking world. St. Mary's is the only hospital in the town of Arkham, and it is a fixture of its uptown neighborhood. You explain the situation to Nurse Greenberg, the head nurse at the hospital, who instructs several other nurses to carry your companions into the emergency ward on stretchers. She tells you with a warm, friendly smile that your friends will be examined by Dr. Mahesarawan, but other than that, you are left entirely in the dark. Hours pass. You hear nothing about the status of your companions. You still have not met with Dr. Mahesarawan, and you're starting to grow impatient. You feel something crawling on your arm, and you instinctively brush it away, then wonder if it was an insect or a figment of your imagination. You begin to question whether bringing your friends here was the right choice after all. Eventually, you decide to take matters into your own hands. It is late at night, and the receptionist who instructed you to stay in the waiting room is nowhere to be seen. In fact, there are eerily few people roaming the halls of the hospital. With nobody to stop you, you sneak off into the emergency ward to find your friends. It does not take long for you to find their room. Your companions lie asleep on clean, white cots, their sleep anything but peaceful. They are pale-faced and sweaty. One of them tosses and turns in their sleep, their brow furrowed with pain or worry. Dr. Mahesarawan does not seem surprised by your intrusion. Shivani Mahesarawan, she introduces herself coldly, without looking up from her clipboard. You're the ones who brought them in, right? Before you ask, no, I haven't seen anything like this before in my life, she says with a hint of dry impatience. You demand that she tell you everything she knows about their condition and not give you the runaround. With a sigh, she puts down her clipboard and addresses you frankly. Listen, I may be new to Arkham, but I've seen enough inexplicable maladies in this town to fill entire careers in medicine. I understand why you're concerned. Your friends, she struggles to find the right words, are not simply asleep. It is as if they are hovering somewhere between sleep and unconsciousness, or even death. They are not aware of anything happening around them, but appear to be reacting to some kind of internal stimuli. Without hesitation, you ask if they are dreaming. Dreaming? Dr. Mahesarawan replies. It is unlikely, although it might account for their mannerisms. Honestly, and I know this is not exactly reassuring, none of this makes any sense to me, medically speaking. Just then you see a large, hairy spider crawling on the chest of one of your friends. Well, that is odd. Dr. Mahesarawan brushes the spider off, and several more emerge from the sheets to take its place. You and the doctor both take several steps back out of pure instinct. You hear heavy footsteps in the hallway outside the emergency ward, and then the lights begin to flicker. Okay, that is more than simply odd. What in the world is going on out there? Dr. Mahesarwan asks anxiously. For just a moment, you think you hear one of your sleeping companions whisper something. Are they indeed dreaming? And if so, what does their condition have to do with these strange events? The investigators must decide. Convince Dr. Mahesarwan to come with you while you investigate, for her safety and for yours. Proceed to Intro 2. Convince Dr. Mahesarwan to stay with the patients and keep them safe while you investigate. Proceed to Intro 3. Intro 2. Yes, I suppose that makes sense. There's been no change in their condition for the past few hours anyway. Dr. Mahesarwan's gaze shifts nervously to and fro, searching for more spiders. Also, I'd very much like to get out of this room now, so lead the way, she adds. You nod and venture back into the hospital's waiting room. Record in your campaign log that Dr. Mahesarwan joined the investigation. Intro 3. Yes, of course. Their safety is paramount, but do come back and tell me what is going on, please, she shivers. I really hate this place after dark. You nod and venture back into the hospital's waiting room. Record in your campaign log that Dr. Mahesarwan stayed with her patients. Proceed to setup. Waking Nightmare Resolutions. If no resolution was reached, and at least one investigator resigned, with panic overtaking your mind, you run through the main exit of St. Mary's Hospital, putting as much distance as you can between you and this accursed infestation. The moment you get home, you collapse from exhaustion. The next day, you wake and check the morning papers, expecting to see tales of chaos at St. Mary's and an infestation of arachnids. However, there's no news regarding the hospital at all. Did last night's events occur too late for the Arkham Advertiser to report on them? Was it all just a bad dream? You put on your coat and head back to the hospital to confirm what you saw last night was real. When you arrive at St. Mary's, you expect to see the building, or perhaps all of Uptown, covered in spider webs. But instead, to your surprise, it is perfectly clean. Patients, nurses, and doctors walk through its halls like none of last night's events had even transpired. Before you can find your sleeping companions, however, a blonde-haired man with heavy bags under his eyes approaches you and places a hand on your shoulder. Good morning. We should talk. For each location that was infested when the game ended, record one tally mark next to Steps of the Bridge in your campaign log. In your campaign log, record Dr. Mahesarwan's fate is unknown. In your campaign log, record Randolph escaped the hospital on his own. Any one investigator may choose to add Randolph Carter, chained to the waking world, to their deck. This card does not count toward that investigator's deck size. Skip to Resolution 5. If no resolution was reached because each investigator was defeated, for each location that was infested when the game ended, record one tally mark next to Steps of the Bridge in your campaign log. Skip to Resolution 4. Resolution 1. Before you depart from the hospital, Dr. Mahesarwan announces that she is going to check on her patients, and you decide to join her. You head back to the emergency ward to find that your companions are still unconscious. Dr. Mahesarwan checks their eyes, takes their pulses, and shakes her head. It's even worse than before. Whatever internal stimuli they are reacting to, they are causing the patients' minds and bodies a great deal of stress. She sits down next to one of her patients and shakes her head. I'll stay here. You go talk to that patient and get to the bottom of this, okay? Oh, and if you find any more spiders, squash one for me, please. As you leave, you swear to your sleeping friends that you will get to the bottom of this and save them. In your campaign log, record that Dr. Mahesarwan is alive. Your companion's conditions has worsened. If you are playing the Web of Dreams and the Dream Quest as an interconnected 8-part campaign, record in Campaign A's campaign log, the dreamers grow weaker. In your campaign log, record Randolph escaped the hospital with the investigators. Any one investigator may choose to add Randolph Carter, chained to the waking world, to their deck. This card does not count toward that investigator's deck size. Skip to Resolution 5. Resolution 2. Before you depart from the hospital, you search high and low for Dr. Mahesrawan, but she is nowhere to be found. You head back to the emergency ward to check on your companions and find that they are still unconscious. In fact, their condition seems to have grown worse. Their foreheads are covered in sweat and blood drips from their closed eyes. One of them is whispering something in their sleep, a repeated phrase in a language you can't understand. As you leave, you swear to your sleeping friends that you will get to the bottom of this and save them. In your campaign log, record Dr. Mahesrawan is missing. Perhaps you could have saved her. The lead investigator suffers 1 mental trauma. Your companion's condition is worsened. If you're playing the Web of Dreams and the Dream Quest as an interconnected 8-part campaign, record in Campaign A's campaign log, the dreamers grow weaker. In your campaign log, record Randolph escaped the hospital with the investigators. Any one investigator may choose to add Randolph Carter, chained to the waking world, to their deck. This card does not count toward that investigator's deck size. Skip to Resolution 5. Resolution 3. Before you depart from the hospital, you go back to the emergency ward to check on Dr. Mahesrawan. The door to the room where your companions are staying is sealed shut, so you knock on the door and ask if she's there. On the other side, you hear furniture being shifted aside and knocked over. An exhausted Shivani Mahesrawan cracks open the door and peers at you with bloodshot eyes. Oh, thank goodness it is you. She lets you in and collapses into a nearby chair. Those things tried to get into the room. I had to barricade myself inside to stop them. You inform her that the danger is past and thank her for watching over your friends. I'll continue to keep an eye on them, she says. Just please tell me there are no more spiders out there, or I'm taking the first train out of this town. As you leave, you swear to your sleeping friends that you'll get to the bottom of this and save them. In your campaign log, record Dr. Mahesrawan is alive. In your campaign log, record Randolph has escaped the hospital with the investigators. Any one investigator may choose to add Randolph Carter chained to the waking world to their deck. This card does not count toward that investigator's deck size. Skip to Resolution 5. Resolution 4. With panic overtaking your mind and no idea how you can escape, you flee anywhere your feet will take you. Hideous monsters begin to close around you, and you envision yourself wrapped in webs, waiting to be a spider's meal. Eventually you come to a dead end, a room covered from floor to ceiling in thick, sticky webs. The skittering of spider legs follows close behind, and you realize you have no hope to escape unless there is a path behind the webs. There's no choice remaining for you. You run headlong into the webs, ripping and tearing at them with the ferocity of a cornered animal. It is tough work, but eventually you see a light behind the webs, perhaps an escape route. Once you cross through the webs, you are no longer in the dark, sterile halls of St. Mary's, but in a narrow, web-covered cavern. You dare not tarry or go back the way you came, so you run through the dark, cramped cave with no idea where it might lead. Glancing through the cobwebs to your left and right, you see not just hard rock, but the glimmering of lights, like a sea of stars looming beyond the silken threads. Eventually you emerge from another wall of webs, only to find yourself in an alleyway in Arkham's Merchant District, near the Miskatonic River. You have neither the time nor the desire to analyze this, instead deciding to put as much distance between you and the hospital as you can. The moment you get home, you collapse from exhaustion. The next day, you wake and check the morning papers, expecting to see tales of chaos at St. Mary's and an infestation of arachnids. However, there is no news regarding the hospital at all. Did last night's events occur too late for the Arkham Advertiser to report on them? Was it all just a bad dream? You put on your coat and head back to the hospital to confirm that what you saw last night was real. When you arrive at St. Mary's, you expect to see the building, or perhaps all of Uptown, covered in spiderwebs. Instead, to your surprise, it is perfectly clean. Patients, nurses, and doctors walk through its halls like none of last night's events transpired. You ask the receptionist if you can see Dr. Mahesrawan, but he shakes his head. I'm sorry, but I don't think she's here today. She left in the middle of her shift last night, and nobody has seen her since. Is there somebody else I can reach for you? Something's not right. None of this makes any sense. You're about to demand to see your sleeping companions when a blonde-haired man with heavy bags under his eyes approaches you and places a hand on your shoulder. Good morning. We should talk. In your campaign log, record Dr. Mahesrawan is missing. Perhaps you could have saved her. The lead investigator suffers 1 mental trauma. In your campaign log, record Randolph escaped the hospital on his own. Any one investigator may choose to add Randolph Carter chained to the waking world to their deck. This does not count toward that investigator's deck size. Proceed to Resolution 5. Resolution 5. You depart from the hospital with the blonde-haired man in tow, and he introduces himself more fully. The man, whose name is Randolph Carter, tells you that he is a dreamer, like Virgil Gray and your friends. One with the ability to traverse the divide between waking worlds and a parallel dimension that was created by, is sustained by, and dwells within the dreams of all living organisms on Earth, a realm he calls the Dreamlands. It is a place of both dreams and nightmares, he explains, but I'm afraid your friends are trapped there as we speak. You ask if there is anything you can do to aid them. Randolph ponders this for a moment, then replies, "Normally dreamers can return to the real world simply by willing themselves awake, but for some reason your friends are unable to do so. If you truly wish to help them, you too must enter the Dreamlands to find them. But forcing your way into the Dreamlands is not easy. Such paths are usually accessible only to experienced dreamers, and only in sleep. Still, there are some places where the Dreamlands touch the waking world, and in those places, with the right tools, you may enter the Dreamlands in your physical body. I know of such a place not far from here. However..." Before Randolph is able to finish his sentence, he is interrupted by a mysterious voice. Each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X value of each card in the victory display. Remove the infestation bag and all infestation tokens from the game. There is no need to keep record of them. If you are playing The Web of Dreams as a 4-part campaign, proceed to Interlude 1, The Black Cat. If you are playing Web of Dreams and The Dream Quest as an interconnected 8-part campaign and you have not yet played Scenario 1A Beyond the Gates of Sleep, proceed to that scenario. If you already played Scenario 1A, proceed instead to Interlude 1, The Black Cat. Interlude 1, The Black Cat. If you are playing both The Dream Quest and The Web of Dreams as an interconnected campaign, or if you are playing The Dream Quest Campaign A by itself, proceed to The Black Cat 1. If you are playing The Web of Dreams Campaign B by itself, skip to The Black Cat 3. The Black Cat 1. Following Scenario 1A, the dreamers travel beyond the Enchanted Woods. As you travel out of the Enchanted Woods, you pass through rolling green meadows under a bright blue, cloudless sky. You speak with the blonde-haired man, who introduces himself as Randolph Carter, for several hours along your journey south. You pass through a town Randolph calls Near, and over a stone bridge spanning a wide river. Since the man seems friendly and knowledgeable about both your world and this one, you explain to him your situation, that you would follow the writings of a man named Virgil Gray to reach this strange land in order to see for yourself the truth of his story. "There is a place in Ulthar where you may meet this man for yourself," Randolph responds. "When we reach Ulthar, I will show you." The town of Ulthar is not quite what you had imagined. The border of the town is marked by a cobblestone road separating its quaint cottages from the rolling green meadows beyond. Inside the town, narrow cobbled streets are filled almost to capacity with cats of all kinds and colors, which part as you approach. Old peaked roofs and overhanging upper stories arch over the hilly streets. The entire village seems a haphazard cluster of homes and old-fashioned businesses. As you reach the town square near the center of the village, Randolph stops and addresses you with a youthful smile. "Welcome to Ulthar," he proclaims. "As I mentioned before, you are quite safe here. But there is one paramount law to keep in mind as you traverse this place. In the town of Ulthar, no one may kill a cat." Given how utterly packed the streets are with cats, you wonder aloud if this is indeed a town run by cats. "Not quite," Randolph replies, pondering your words, "though I suppose one might call it the center of cat society here in the Dreamlands. The reason for that law's existence is a story for another time. First, come. I have a feeling we'll find this Virgil fellow you speak of at Einar's." Randolph leads you through the town square, which is surrounded by buildings adorned with cat motifs in the form of statues, signs, and even stained glass windows. You eventually arrive at one such building bearing a sign that reads Einar's Place. Inside is a medieval-style tavern filled with long wooden tables. You spot several patrons and 3 times as many cats. One such patron at the wooden counter feeds one of the cats small strips of dried meat. He is a handsome man in his early 30s with short dark hair, a strong jaw, and sharp cheekbones. You recognize him instantly as the writer Virgil Gray. In the back of your mind, you wonder if this chance meeting is merely an act of fortune or something preordained, for good or for ill. Regardless, you approach the man and introduce yourself along with Randolph. Virgil shakes your hand and Randolph's with a joyful smile. "Well met, fellow dreamers," the writer says, with a hint of boyish excitement in his voice. "It is wonderful to meet more fellow believers. I'd become so sick and tired of reading about my supposed illness in the papers." You nod your head in agreement and inform Virgil that you intend to find some proof of this discovery to bring back to the waking world. "Don't you think I tried that?" he replies, stymied. "Sadly, it is impossible for one who is asleep to bring anything from this realm into the real world. This is all imagination, you see. Ideas, concepts, fantasies. You cannot hold a thought in your hands, can you?" Randolph interjects. "There's a place within the Dreamlands that may hold the proof you seek. I've seen it in my dreams. I visited there 3 times, each time just a fleeting moment before I was snatched away by the rising sun. But try as I might, I cannot find the way again. I've spent many nights searching." "Oh?" Virgil asks, intrigued. "And what is this place?" "It is a marvelous city," he describes, his eyes aglow with wonder. "Golden and lovely like nothing I've ever seen before or since. A city beyond the peaks of the unknown mountain Kadath, where no one has ever set foot before. There, veiled within the clouds and crowned by stars, lies the onyx castle of the Great Ones." Virgil idly pets the cat on the countertop next to him as he is absorbed by Randolph's tale. It is a slender creature with lustrous black fur, dark as the void of space itself. "Then we must find this place. Even if it does not have the proof we seek, it sounds like the adventure of a lifetime. Enough to fill 100 pages or more." You tell Virgil and Randolph that before you commit to such an adventure, you must return to the waking world and tell your companions about your experiences. Just then, another voice, cryptic and quiet, chimes. "Oh, you can't wake up. The eye is upon you now." You and the others spin your heads around, searching for the source of the voice. The barkeeper? Another patron? Then Virgil's black cat stretches and sits up, its piercing yellow eyes reflecting the light of the sun through the window outside. "I have waited a long time for you to seek Kadath," it says. "You can talk," Virgil says, nearly toppling over his stool as he jumps in surprise. "I'm a cat, you dolt. Of course I can talk," the black cat replies, licking its paw out of boredom. "You've met 1,000 cats from Ulthar, and now you're surprised?" "But I thought—" Virgil wipes his brow with his palm. "Never mind him," the black cat says, addressing you directly. "I assure you, you cannot cross back into the waking world until you find Kadath. It is your only way out. In the meantime, I will return and tell your companions about the quest ahead of you." It hops off the countertop and walks confidently toward the exit. Though I imagine their task will be even more arduous. If you are playing both the Dream Quest and the Web of Dreams as an interconnected campaign, proceed to the Black Cat 2. Otherwise, the enigmatic cat vanishes out the door before you get a chance to respond. Proceed to Scenario 2A, the search for Kadath. The Black Cat 2. What shall I tell your friends in the waking world? The lead investigator must decide. Choose one. Tell your companions of your quest, your plight, and your peril. The Black Cat will return to you once this message is delivered. This may put an undue burden on your companions. In the campaign log for the Dream Quest Campaign A, record the Black Cat delivered news of your plight. Or, tell your companions about your new friends and about the Dreamlands. In the campaign log for the Dream Quest Campaign A, record the Black Cat shared knowledge of the Dreamlands. Or, tell your companions that they are in danger and that you are safe. The Black Cat will stay with them once this message is delivered. This might make your quest a little more difficult. In the campaign log for the Dream Quest Campaign A, record the Black Cat warned the others. Or, you don't trust this creature one bit. You threaten the Black Cat, warning it not to approach your friends under any circumstances. The Black Cat yawns and vanishes out the door. In the campaign log for the Dream Quest Campaign A, record, "Okay, fine. Have it your way, then." Proceed to the Black Cat 3. The Black Cat 3. Following Scenario 1B, the investigators are confronted outside St. Mary's Hospital. "You must be their friends," the enigmatic voice says from above. To your surprise, the quiet voice belongs not to a person, but to a black cat that lounges lazily across a tree branch hanging over the path outside the hospital. "Oh, pick up your jaws off the ground and listen." The cat rises and leaps onto the top of a nearby fence, walking along it with the grace that only cats possess. "It is one of the cats of Earth's Dreamlands," Randolph proclaims, his voice tinged with merriment, like he was meeting an old friend for the first time in ages. "How long it has been since I have spoken with one of your kind." The cat's piercing yellow eyes glare at Randolph for a moment before it returns its gaze to you. "Sure. In any event, I bear a message from your dreaming friends." Check the campaign log for the Dream Quest Campaign A and choose the following that applies to your situation. If you are playing the Web of Dreams Campaign B by itself and there is no campaign log for the Dream Quest, your friends are not the only ones in trouble, the Black Cat explains. There's a grand conspiracy at work here, and your friends are, well, let's just say a bit preoccupied with their own problems at the moment. You're the only ones who can destroy the Great Web. Forget about your companions and transcend into the pitch. It's the only way. I'll try to keep your friends safe while you fulfill your task. Do you understand? In your campaign log, record that you are on your own. If the Black Cat shared knowledge of the Dreamlands, the Black Cat tells you all about the Dreamlands and about the quest your friends are about to embark upon. Your friends are in a safe place in the Dreamlands along with a couple of others. My pet human, Virgil, is one of them. Yes, that Virgil. I see the looks on your faces. They're also with another dreamer, a man named... Hey, wait a minute. The cat glares suspiciously at Randolph, then yawns. Huh. You know what? Never mind. I have to check on something. With that, the cat suddenly departs. In both campaign logs, record, the Black Cat has a hunch. If the Black Cat delivered news of your plight, so your pals aren't looking too good. They wanted me to tell you that they're in a lot of trouble. They can't wake up until they fulfill this quest, and it's not going to be easy. The Eye of Chaos is watching them. You've got your work cut out for you, but you also might be their only hope. The Black Cat hops down from the fence and starts to walk away. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd better get back to your friends before they get themselves killed. In the campaign log for the Dream Quest Campaign A, record, the Black Cat is at your side. Add 1 Elder Thing token to the Chaos Bags for both campaigns. If the Black Cat warned the others, your friends told me to tell you that they're fine. In fact, they told me to warn you that you're the ones in real danger. I'd believe them if I were you. There's a grand conspiracy at work here, and you're the only ones who can stop it. The best thing you can do is forge onward for both your sakes. Don't worry, I'll stick around for a while. Someone's got to keep you alive. In the campaign log for Web of Dreams Campaign B, record the Black Cat is at your side. Add 1 tablet token to the Chaos Bags for both campaigns. If, okay, fine, have it your way then. Nah, you know what? Forget about it. I'm sure you'll be fine. The Black Cat suddenly leaves without saying another word. In both campaign logs, record, you asked for it. If you are playing both the Dream Quest and the Web of Dreams as an interconnected campaign, proceed to either Scenario 2A, The Search for Kadath, or Scenario 2B, 1,000 Shapes of Horror. Otherwise, proceed to Scenario 2B, 1,000 Shapes of Horror.